Come on in, guys. Welcome to the Sit-Out Bench. I'm Matt.
And I'm Joe. We're two friends from the Midlands who are absolutely die-hard Survivor fans. We're excited for you to join us for pre-season, in-season, and post-season content focusing on Survivor UK. You can follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, follow us, interact with us, and definitely give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you're listening to the pod.
On today's episode, we'll be doing our Cast Capital Stock Watch for episodes 5 and 6 of Survivor UK.
So take your spot on the sit-out bench and let's get started.
Joe, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm Matt. Yeah, doing really, really well, thank you. Had a wicked week. Everything's been good so far. I really feel after episode 6 on Sunday, I really feel excited about Survivor UK. We're knee-deep in speculation season. And so it's making kind of that Monday to Friday really exciting in terms of what's going to happen next and starting to think about that. How about yourself, Matt? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think we've got a lot of good what-if scenarios to talk through today. And then obviously we're going to be talking through the players one by one as usual, talking about if their stock has dropped or risen after the last batch of episodes.
When Survivor UK started, there was one man who came out of absolutely nowhere with hot takes, with strategic masterminds, with analysis that we'd never seen before. And we're very fortunate to be joined tonight by Captain Strategy himself, aka Adam. Adam, how are you doing, mate? You all right?
Hello, mate. Yeah, very good, thank you. And thanks for the new nickname, Captain Strategy. I'll take that with me wherever I go.
Oh, man.
Okay, so Adam, do you want to tell everyone a bit about yourself? What's your relationship with Survivor and how did you start watching?
I started watching Survivor during lockdown. It was it was on Amazon Prime, the episodes. It was just finding something to watch during lockdown, and as soon as I got into it, I started my way through all of the seasons and found my way to the US seasons, and worked my way through as many as I could find, basically. Absolutely loved the show. Was hooked from the first time I watched it, and I was so excited when it was coming back to the UK. I applied for UK Survivor when it came out, got through to the live auditions, and obviously didn't get on the show, otherwise you'd be seeing me on TV. But hopefully it gets renewed, and I'll be back applying again next year.
Awesome. And what are your thoughts on the season so far for this?
I was really on the fence until this weekend. I'm really glad this weekend's happened. I'm really happy with I think they've changed the editing this weekend because it just seems a lot more cast focused, a lot more strategy focused, a lot less of Joel's puns. So overall, I think whatever they've done this weekend is really worked, and they've brought the spirit of Survivor back, I'd say.
Love that. Spirit of Survivor is strong, and this weekend for us really saved Survivor UK, I think, in terms of just making it what the game can be. Hopefully we're trending in the right direction. But yourself as a super fan, as someone who loves the strategy, what do you need to see over the next 12 episodes to say, yes, this is a success, there's going to be a season 2? What do you feel like really still needs to happen?
What I'd say we need to see is a bit more of what we saw in episode 6. The two tribes breaking up is a great start. If we can see people that are trying to play both sides, I think we need to move away from that strength-based strategy and more tactical voting strategy. And we've seen a bit of that, but I think that it could have gone even deeper this week. If we continue to see that sort of voting blocks strategy, more blind sides, more alliances and pairings, moving forward will be what we need to see.
You'll be happy with me, Joe. I've started watching again the second newer season of Australian Survivor today.
Yes.
So I've watched the first few episodes already before, but I'm just rewatching them because I can't actually remember what happens. But I've just got to the second episode, and obviously that's a crazy, chaotic tribal, and it just really reminded me of what we've been missing in these first few episodes of this season. So really hoping that we start to get a bit more chaos, a bit more drama with the votes. And I think based on a few scenarios that we've got set up, we're in for some quite interesting voting setups and voting dynamics moving into it. So this week we're going to do it slightly different. We're going to talk about a few scenarios on each of the tribes first, just to get a bit of an idea about where our head's at and what we're thinking. So we're going to start talking about Calaton. Captain Strategy, what are your thoughts on how the Calaton tribe is currently set up? And we're talking about a new Calaton post-swap.
I think there's no way they're losing a challenge, so I don't think we really need to talk about too much about tribals with this new tribe. I mean, with Doug, Lawrence, and Shy all on the same team, those guys seem pretty unbeatable, to be honest. And they showed it in the first immunity challenge. But you never know what challenges are coming. I think based on the past challenges, there's a big focus on the big sort of obstacle course type challenges. So it will probably play into their hands a bit. But if they do go to tribal council, I mean, obviously Doug's got his idol, which is helpful. I think Nathan and Lee are very similar in their mindset in terms of strength is key for how they vote, but he's just not been as vocal about it as Lee has. So with Doug, Pegleg, and probably Shy, I think they're probably fairly safe within that tribe. I don't know where Jess is going to sit. To be honest, I think Original Calaton's going to stay with Original Calaton. I don't see necessarily Doug and Pegleg splitting the other team up. The only way they can do it is with the idol, I think.
There are definitely blocks of people here that feel really cemented together. And you're right, the two that feel cemented together, Jess and Nathan, there's not much at this point that can really divide them. They feel very settled. I think that's a firm two. Doug and Pegleg, also, despite the little wobble with the idol and Doug's horrendous story of how he introduced it, doesn't do him any favours, but I feel like that's a firm two as well. In our recap, we kind of lumped together Shy and Lawrence as kind of another two. I don't necessarily believe wholeheartedly that they are a kind of a voting block, that they're going to go the same way. But in my mind, the power is really in their hands in terms of which way they want to lean. If Calaton does lose, that will really determine who gets voted out. Obviously, with the big X factor being Doug's idol, whether or not he tells people about that beforehand to try and build an alliance, get more strength, get more numbers, whether he leaves that for a blind side, that for me is kind of a really big X factor. But in terms of flipping, if I did think there was going to be someone who flipped, would it be Lawrence? Would it be Shy? Would it be someone else?
I can see any one of the three duos having the most power on this tribe. Nathan and Jess obviously are like the solid main group of Calaton, so they could have some sway over Shy and Lawrence there, but similarly Shy and Lawrence could decide to flip. Doug and Pegleg obviously can leverage the idol. We know that they want to target Shy, so maybe they can convince Nathan and Jess to target him. Obviously I think Jess is someone who could be prone to flipping and going with whatever works best for her. We know she wants Shyette, so there's potential for that there as well. Calaton's set up in a very, very interesting way. As you said, Adam, not sure whether we'll get to see it based on them being way stronger. Let's look at Lenena then. So the way that Lenena's currently set up, we've got Tanuke, Matthew, Leilani from Original Calaton, and then obviously we've got the Ash, Chris, Lee trio, and we sort of have Hannah there in the middle.
The way Tanuke, Matthew, and Leilani voted, I think they should have seen the numbers in the tribe. So they're obviously a three. There was Ashley, Chris, and Lee. Well, obviously Lee ended up going for Leilani, but in theory there was those three going for Ren. And if Tanuke, Matthew, and Leilani actually voted for one of the three that were together, maybe even take out a big player in Lee or Christopher, then they're a three versus the other two twos, and they're in that power position. The other two pairs are in a position where they've both voted for each other. The trust is lost there already, and the former Calaton players that are now in Lenena get the power. They've not made the right strategic decision long term, but they are in a good position now if they can convince Hannah to come over with them. And I think the fact that Ashley, Lee, and Chris left Hannah out of their votes, that's going to push Hannah over to the Original Calaton 3.
What Calaton really has going for it is that they are really tight. You saw that as Leilani is running down the beach to greet Matthew and Tanuke. You see it in the way they voted. I can't imagine a world where Lenena loses and those three start to turn on each other. I think they're firm. If I flip that round to Hannah, though, I think Hannah's gone, man. There's no way that she is going to come back to the Lenena people and say, yes, don't worry, you just voted out my number one. I'd still love to be with you guys. I'm really expecting a huge jump from Hannah in the next couple of episodes. She's been missing in action pretty much the entire season so far. It feels like what I want to see is her being more strategic, her thinking through and recognizing the situation. I'm really worried, particularly about Ashley at Lenena. That's someone who Hannah just voted for. It's someone who she doesn't get on with. I have a sort of a real hope that Hannah has a big moment to flip it all around and hopefully to get Ashley.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hannah kind of has to flip in the position that she's been left in, otherwise she could be in trouble there. I don't think Tanuke and Matthew are going to be very willing to just sacrifice Leilani there, so... So let's start talking about people one by one then. Starting off with Calaton. So we're going to go bottom to top as usual. And the person that we have at the bottom of our rankings with another stock fall for us is unfortunately Shy again this week. So Joe, what are you thinking about Shy?
Not a lot, if I'm honest. His character moments this week was literally pointing out to Doug where the electrical storms happened on the beach. There was nothing else that he really brought in terms of strategy and dynamics. And what it really cemented for me in that episode 5 is that Shy is in the back seats. He doesn't have a hand on the wheel. He doesn't have a foot on the gas. He has nothing. The decisions around who to vote out were happening largely without him. He has to actually just thank Rachel and Lawrence for putting other names in the frame that weren't him. And what I've really struggled to see is that as that screen time's dropped as well, I've really felt like his ability to be like an active game player, make decisions, force the action has really dropped as well. He's someone who I think, unfortunately, is just playing a really passive game. And in his position on the bottom, he has the opportunity to play quite wildly, quite aggressively, to quite flip it. And I think my real worry is right now, he may feel that he's in a stronger position than he actually is. He may feel, I'm more comfortable now because there's a buffer zone with some of these excellent Enna people, when in reality, I don't think he has formed strong relationships with any of the original Calaton.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely on the bottom, and there's no hiding that. The only saving grace for Shy is that somehow there's this connection with Lawrence that he's got, and that's the only positive I can take out from Shy's game so far. He doesn't have the connections clearly to be able to form any sort of alliance or voting block or blindside. So, like you say, I think it's a very passive game, but I don't think he's in a position where he can do anything but play a passive game at the moment.
Obviously, when Leilani goes over to Lynella, she's already spreading that hate against Shy as well. So if they get to the merge and everyone wants Shy out, it's going to be a complete disaster for him. And obviously, Peg and Doug say at the swap that they want to go over specifically to take Shy out as well. So he's facing a really big uphill battle. If we look at it in terms of just numbers on paper, he has an opportunity in terms of being able to use Doug and Pegleg to flip the game on his tribe. But realistically, what incentive do Doug and Pegleg have to go after Nathan or to go after Jess? Jess is someone who's going to be a really good number, who is, as Tanuke said, quite easily swayed and told what to do. She has a lot more to bring to the game and to someone specifically Doug or Pegleg's game than Shy does. So I think it'll be interesting to see what he actually decides to do there. Like, does he throw Lawrence under the bus? Does he just attempt something crazy? We've still got that idol still on Calaton somewhere.
If I'm legit, I thought he would be gone by now.
Yeah.
That's the one real saving grace, is that he's still here somehow. He's still fighting. So there's no reason why he couldn't make it through another week. He, to me, is as well the perfect target for who Pegleg and Doug should be talking to about flipping. Even from what they've heard from Leilani, they must know he's on the bottom. So I expect to see a lot of that action as well. A lot of whispers in his ears about, this is what Leilani's saying to us about you. This is what they really think of you. So why are they your friends? Come and join us.
Yeah, I completely agree. So talking about Pegleg, he's the next person on our list. Not really a stock fall or a stock rise for me this week. Just kind of staying the same. There's a few things that I saw that I liked, a few things that I saw that I didn't like. I mean, we've got to talk about his reaction to Doug's idol reveal and how we think that's going to play into it moving forward.
It's a weird reaction. If someone told me about an idol, I'd be pretty happy about it. I think that's a point of trust that they're revealing to me. I mean, I don't know why Doug did it, but we can talk about Doug in a second. But I would have taken that information and you can either use it to target Doug or use it and say that, okay, now between the two of us, we've got an idol. So either way, it's positive. Pegleg's one of these, like, his character is obviously, he plays a very sort of honorable character. That mistrust that he didn't tell him initially that he had the idol, especially that he found it when they were looking together, that's what he focused on, rather than the actual positive side of having the knowledge and the information that the idol is within his sort of partnership's hands, basically.
He has the biggest bargaining chip in terms of, he understands that Doug has the idol. He has the information that he can sell to people, that he can keep to himself. To your point, Adam, I don't think he's going to use it. And for me, the reason Pegleg is a stock drop this week is this real fixation on Shy being the real strong person and the person they need to get out. because I don't think that's a narrative that anyone has been spilling this entire season so far. The other thing I do kind of feel for me personally with Pegleg is that we're starting to see a little bit more that maybe some of the social dynamics and some of those social elements of the game are really getting away from him. So from what I've seen, the only person he's really connected with so far is Lee. And they seem to have connected in quite this, down to earth. They're both grinders, sort of alpha male types, I think, in a way. And I don't think he's had that same sort of connection with other people. And so the longer he goes, that's really starting to come to the forefront that he's just lacking on those other elements of the game that are going to allow him to go deep. He's not a huge threat, though, is he? Let's be honest, Matt. He's not like everyone else is talking about Pegleg the way they talk about Shy.
No, and I think that's part of the reason why he's this low down on the list is because he's not that threatening. He's not being one of the stronger challenge competitors. And so I think if Calaton do decide to stay strong and Doug decides to keep that order for himself, Pegleg's gone and there's nothing he can do about it realistically. He's not in a great position at all unless he leverages his information and is able to make cross-tribal alliances, but I don't necessarily see that happening for him.
There's no flipping way that Doug plays an idol on Pegleg, unless he knows that all of the votes are going to Peg.
How many tribals has he been to now? Because wasn't it 3 tribals he has to use it?
If you found it in episode...
he found it in episode 4 because the outpost was in 3 and then...
found it in the next episode,
So he hasn't been to one yet.
Yeah, so Doug has all of his tribals still there to use that idol. So he's better off keeping it till the merge, realistically, because, that tribe's not going to tribal more than once.
Yeah, and let's scenario plan to the nth degree. Let's say him and Peg say solid as a 2. There are 4 votes on Peg, and so he correctly plays the idol on Pegleg. Maybe he gets rid of someone else. He's still not in the majority after doing that. He's still in the minority, hoping for some split that's probably not going to flip and happen. Yeah, I can't see a world where Peg gets saved by an idol, unfortunately.
We'll move on to our next person, and that is the person who's in Shy's sudden duo, which is Lawrence. This episode wasn't great for Lawrence. We kind of discovered that he was on the sort of bottom of the tribe along with Shy, and that people weren't exactly trusting him. Obviously, Nathan and Tanuke decided to keep him and Shy over Rachel, based purely on the fact that they don't feel like they can control Rachel, whereas we saw Lawrence telling Tanuke information earlier in the season. So I think that played a big factor into it. So I think he's been playing well to build up connections, but I think the reason he's this slow down is that he's not in the best position on this tribe.
It was a surprise that he was on the outs. I mean, I guess with his little cave that he sits in all day, he probably physically isolates himself as well as socially, but it was a surprise because all you see up until now is him sort of, like you say, giving information to Tanuke. He seems to be in with Jess and Rachel and the other guy, like the main alliance as well. So it's surprising that he's out. I think his saving grace was the fact that he could influence Tanuke and it was Matthew at the well to consider other options. I think the main focus before that seemed to have been Shy. That's the way the edit shows anyway. And so he's got the power to influence players, which is a positive, and it's something you need. But I don't know if he has the power to continuously influence players, and or whether it was sort of an option that seemed to work for everyone, and that's why the others went along with it.
Yeah, I love that picture you've just drawn in my mind, Adam, of Lawrence now as Gollum, sort of in a cave, just creeping around.
If only he had the idol, just my precious.
Yeah, huge stock drop for me on Lawrence this week. He definitely had positive moments, like you say, at the well, being able to call out and influence people. But look at some of the duds that he did as well. The biggest dud for me is that the guy hasn't found an idol yet. I was banking on the fact that the Calaton idol would be found episode 5 and 6. I don't believe what Jess and Matthew are saying. I don't think it's as hard to find an idol as they're making out. Maybe that's the naivety in me just sitting on the sofa at home saying, oh, it's in the tree, look in the tree, or whatever it is. But yeah, for me, he's not even trying to look for it. They haven't shown one scene of him kind of digging around really passionately. He hasn't even brought it up in any of his confessionals. He also got a real Dodo edit moment where he's on the balance beam in episode 6. And I've never seen this before. He fell over, smacks his stomach, and they do a replay of Lawrence in slow-mo.
Slow-mo.
Slow-mo breaking his hip.
Oh, it's brutal. Like, he's not showing me a huge amount. I do think he sits above Peg Leg and Shy, only because he's showing a little bit more awareness in terms of what the game is. I think he'll glue himself to Jess and Nathan and see this as his real opportunity to become a core member of the Alliance. A lot of dodos here. Yeah, it was a big stock drop for me, Matt.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because we see Shy overplaying to some extent, but I feel like Lawrence is kind of underplaying. You know, if he does go out here just based on the fact that Nathan and Jess just want to get rid of him and Doug and Pegleg vote for him as well, then we're going to be saying that decision at the outpost to take the big fish was terrible because he should have picked the middle fish, could have saved Ren's game, could have saved his game. That said, I was going to say if he gets to the merge, I think he'll be okay with the Calaton people, but he's still at the bottom, so it's quite clear that Tanuke and Matthew would rather keep Leilani than Lawrence and Shy. So,
do you think so?
Yeah, I really do. I think they think she's a physical weakness. So I think if the tribe lose, there's still a chance that Leilani is in danger. But if they get to a merge, I think Leilani's a really solid number for them and someone who's easily swayed, someone who's not going to do anything to rock the apple cart and just help them be a number.
Like, I think Leilani's position's especially stronger with Tanuke and Matthew moving now over to Lenena and them having that strong three. I think those two will bring her back into the fold with Nathan and Jess if they all survive through to the merge.
I definitely see Leilani over Shy. Sorry, mate. I don't think Shy's he's not got a huge amount of social capital that he can leverage. Leilani over Lawrence, I don't know. Leilani to me is a bit of a liability. And I mean that in the nicest way because she's such a good person with a good heart. But how great is it to have a person who can't lie in your alliance? You know, that's a pretty big strategic drawback to have.
I mean, it's kind of a good thing if you're Tanuke and you're worried. Say you get to like the final five and then there's a move that can be made to get rid of Tanuke. Like if Lawrence decides to flip, like maybe she could see it coming because he's on the bottom, but she still wouldn't see it as much than Leilani, who would be very, very obvious that she was lying to her and, you know, she'd kind of had the heads up that something was going on there. So I think Leilani's a more valuable Alliance member moving into the merge and the end game.
We'll play the tape back on this when you're wrong.
I'll get the buzzers back out. Okay, so next person we'll be talking about is going to be Nathan. This is a person that I was kind of torn on, and I ended up saying he was like a stock neutral, purely because we don't really get much of Nathan in these past two episodes, so it's hard to see where he is. So Adam, what are you thinking about Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say Nathan's stock is dropping now. I think his asset as a challenge beast is diminishing as we get further into the game. His tactical position has obviously been weakened by Tanuke and Matt moving away. So, like you say, they had a strong 4 before, and now they've got a couple of weak 2s. I do think Nathan's position is dropping, but like I said before, as long as him and Doug keep carrying that tribe through immunity challenges, I don't think it's a major issue that he's on his way down that tribe.
I'd agree that his stock is dropping. Can I think of a memorable Nathan moment from the last 4 episodes? Not really. Like, you know, I'm being legitimate now. I'm trying to think. Like, is there one? I think apart from maybe disagreeing with Tanuke about Shy or Leilani who should go. I don't think he's had any sort of real screen time. Partly because
the only highlight was his weakness in that balance challenge, really.
Yeah, and even like his, we keep talking about his athletic prowess. Like Doug has kicked his ass, like in every head-to-heads. It's not as though that is this real dominating factor. And he doesn't seem to want it to be either. He's very much a leader. He wants to big people up. He wants to do well in the challenges, but he's not your stereotypical, I suppose, kind of big sports guy who's very about themselves. He seems very outward-facing, which is really good. Without Tanuke, his ability to really be able to make the right reads, to be able to form the right relationships really drop. I think she's the crutch. She's the person who was doing a lot of that. And he was almost, by necessity, that second part, the second in command of that kind of power couple. Yeah, just didn't see a huge amount of content for Nathan. I think he's relatively safe. You know, we said this from the beginning. He's going to make the merge. He's just the type of person who does. However, if I'm Pegleg and Doug, he's actually probably the person I'm targeting the most if there's an opportunity to blindside someone. And hopefully they recognise that this is an opportunity to get out someone who's near the top of the tree, someone who's going to be great in some of those individual immunities. Let's strike now.
Yeah, and what you're saying about Tanuke as well, we've got to remember the fact that Nathan's kind of blocked a lot of Tanuke's plans over the past few episodes of the season so far. So I think as soon as he's not needed for challenges, you know, if he not rubs people the wrong way, but if he puts a blocker in people's plans, they're going to start thinking about getting rid of him. I would say that if I was Doug, I wouldn't target Nathan because I think he needs that shield. You don't want to be going into the merge as the most obvious, strongest guy. The next person we're going to be talking about, the lowest he's been so far, which is second, is going to be Doug.
When criminals in this world appear and break the laws that they should fear and frighten all who see or hear, the cry goes up both far and near for underdog. Underdog, 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 with speed of lightning roar.
So this is another one that I ended up putting as neutral personally, but that was because there was a lot of highs and a lot of lows rather than it just being an average episode. So I'd be interested to dig into this one. So Adam, what are you thinking about, Doug?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with the highs and lows. I think he's made a great move by switching tribes. I think he's seen that probably him and Nathan together are a strong pair. His game plan going into it with his bio was to find shields, and he had Ren as a strategic shield over at Lenena. He's now got Nathan as a physical shield over in Calaton. And even though, like you say, he's actually beaten Nathan in most, maybe all head-to-head challenges, he needs that shield. A few downsides on him telling Peg about the idol. There's no upside to that. If you look at the options, like he's already got him as an ally. So what does telling him achieve? It doesn't strengthen their alliance anymore, really. It just adds to the risk of actually what's happened. He can still play the idol for Peg if he needs to, but he doesn't need to tell him about it, especially at this stage, especially when they don't end up going to tribal council. Wait until there's a vote on your head where you absolutely need to divulge that information, if you even do. I think the one thing that Doug could have done to really cement his position is he's the only person now with Ren gone. He's the only person that knows where the Lenena idol was found. So if I was Doug, I would have gone straight to that point in the Calaton Beach and tried to find it there.
Yes.
Like he doesn't know that it's not been found yet, or that it has been found yet. But you don't need to know. Like that would be the first thing I did when I got onto that Calaton Beach is try and find that idol in the same place. And if it's not in the same place, then fine. But having that information is a step above anyone else has got. But I think overall his position is pretty strong. He's in by far the strongest tribe now, based on the challenges that have come so far. I think this tribe would have probably won all of them. If they continue in that same vein and there's no puzzles, I don't see him being in a position of weakness overall because he's in the stronger tribe.
And you're right, he's the only one who knows it's by the well down low. It will blow my mind if he goes full on Golden God and has two idols. That would be absolutely amazing. And for me, Doug, it is a stock drop. I know you've been kind, Matt, and put neutral. I thought that was his big misstep, was the story and telling people, and doesn't cement anything. I was not a big fan of this move. And to be honest, I'm not even sure how much of a fan of him going over to Calaton more generally that I was. So he gets away from the Ren heat, definitely. But the majority of the people who are on Lenena were really pro Doug. So Lee gave a great confessional where he talks about feeling really close to Doug. I think we've seen him before, kind of Ashley and Hannah all leaning into him and building relationships with him. I almost think he could be digging a hole for himself where, come the merge, he's going to have to pick a side. And he may have so many friends that he becomes public enemy number one because everyone realises he's so in the middle. He's just playing absolutely everybody. I did love, though, just a little side note as well, when he was volunteering to go, it felt a little bit like me when there's one slice of pizza left. I'll turn to my wife and I'll say, I'll eat the last slice of pizza. That way we can throw away the box. This very martyr moment where he's like, I'll go if I have to, guys. So I'll go over to the tribe. When you can just see, really, he's like, yes, this is my moment. I think Doug made a couple of mistakes this episode, but he's a stock drop. But I think he's safe probably again the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight my nervousness for Doug at the merge. I think Ren going home leaves him on the outside of his own alliance, especially now they're all going to know that he had the idol, that he was keeping the secret from them with Ren as well. And so I worry about how he's going to slot back into Lenena no matter Calaton. I mean, potentially might want to work with Nathan for that reason. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I think he's absolutely fine for now, as you said, Joe, but I do worry at the merge. Well, now we'll move on to our number one person for Calaton, which I would say unbelievably, but after the last two episodes were so impressive. She's playing extremely well, but not out in front, not too heavy on the strategy, but doing everything she needs to do and no more. And that person is Jess.
I think it's outrageous you put her at the top, to be honest. I think, she's had a great couple of episodes. To be fair, like in both the challenges, she's put in a shift. Like she absolutely worked her ass off in both challenges, and obviously pushed herself to the point of almost passing out in one, which was commendable. Socially, I think she's great. I think she sort of gets on with everyone. I just don't think she's got the killer instinct to really do anything about it. She's noticed that she's on the bottom with Rachel going. She's talked about sort of needing to do something, but I just don't. I think she's just too nice. I don't get the impression that she's going to do anything drastic with that information and really cement her position in the game.
Adam, you're blowing my mind. You're blowing my mind. I think she's getting a winner's edit right now in a weird way. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not sure I think of a winner that I can compare her to. Like,
I can.
Is it Marianne? Is it?
No, I was thinking Christy.
Oh, really?
First season Australian Survivor, yeah.
No, she's more.
No, I think
more
she's
normal.
I think Jess has had a much better edit than Chrissy.
Oh yeah, definitely more normal. But I mean, in terms of being the bottom person that goes along, gets to the end game as part of that alliance, and then quite easily can win people over just against someone that has annoyed people.
I suppose for that social aspect, I don't think she'll be able to talk as well at the final tribal council as Christy did.
So very different talking style.
Yeah.
I think like that could win people over more, just being like, do you know what, guys? It's been crazy.
Do you remember that time we got the chocolate milk?
Yeah.
That was great.
So I think she's more of a Marianne to me. You know, I think she might just have one or two moves somewhere in the merge that's just enough to put her ahead in this type of game. I think it was very telling that the producers chose to introduce split votes through Jess. So we've had split votes at a lot of the tribal councils, but this is the first one Jess has given a voice to. This is what's happening. And I think they did that specifically to try and illustrate to us she has more of a strategic side to her. Love that she had the one-on-one conversation with Nathan. And also her threat level is just so low. You know, I cannot see anyone targeting her in a way that plays to her advantage a little bit. I agree, Adam. There might be a moment where she has to really do something or she'll become a goat.
I think that's where she's seen at the moment. And like Tanuke's even raised it. She's calling out early on at this point that Jess is going to be a goat and Rachel's not, so that's why she wants to get rid of Rachel, and effectively Jess will do what she's told, which I hope isn't the case. And like you say, her threat level is very low, so she's not going to be seen to be like someone that needs to be voted out, which will get her to the end. But like you say, she needs to make a move or two to be able to have something to talk about on her resume.
Yeah, I thought it was very impressive that obviously we see from Tanuke's perspective that she's keeping Jess because she thinks it'll be easy for her to stay in the game. But then we get it from Jess's perspective when she says that she wants to make sure that she's no longer on the bottom and she makes sure that she's solid with that group of four. I think that could quite easily have been told through someone else's perspective, but we get it through Jess's showing that she is thinking strategically. So for me, Jess is just the biggest stock riser on the board this week. Obviously, I can see it not working out long term, but I think for me, for now, definitely on this tribe coming up for next week's episodes, I don't see Jess going anywhere. I think she's definitely the safest on this tribe.
And just side note about Jess, isn't she the person most likely to be on another reality TV show? Like, I can see her easily slipping into The Apprentice, into like Strictly Come Dancing. Like, you know, maybe she has a secret nut milk brand that she's ready to kind of. Yeah,
Oh,
this is not the end for Jess. In terms of who's going to be a real star coming out of this, 100% it's Jess. She'll definitely be on at least 3 other reality shows. throughout 24-25.
Okay, so that's Calaton. Let's now move over to Lenena. And I know that this first person at the bottom is someone who you have very strong feelings on, Joe. So do you want to introduce them?
You're setting me up here to be the snake. Listen, I don't have strong feelings on Hannah because for the third week in a row, I don't know the girl. I know nothing about her. And it's becoming actually for me a little bit frustrating that the producers aren't giving us the right level of content. And let me give the comparison, right? Because I also said the same thing about Rachel for episode 5 when she got voted out. And in episode 5, we got her video tribute montage, and that totally changed my perception of Rachel. And it made me connect with her a lot more. It made me want to root for her. And I feel like Hannah's got this terrific backstory as well. And I don't know why we haven't got it. And at this point, if we get it, that's the episode that she's going home.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As soon as Rachel's videotape came on, like you knew she was a goner.
Yeah, and it's sad that they're choosing to do the edit. I think this is as close to a purple edit as we're going to get in Survivor UK season 1. The really strong point, though, I think she is at the bottom because we don't know a lot about her. She's not had any highs throughout the whole series. However, she is in the strongest position for me at the Lenena tribe. I think the likelihood of the 6 of them coming together and saying, let's all vote Hannah, is very, very low. And so the opportunity for her to be the swing vote and to make the right decision, I think is really, really great. And for me, that right move is to switch over to the ex-Calaton people. It is to sort of be a turncoat. And so I am expecting a big jump for her in the next episode in terms of what she gives us, both strategically and socially. But really disappointing. And I'm sure she's disappointed as well, actually, around the edit that she's gotten so far.
I totally agree with you, Joe. I think she's just been shown as a passenger so far. There's not one scene where she's made a decision by herself. The only sort of positive that's come out of it was her proposing that they send a female to the tribe swap 3 that they sent forward, but when she was there, she didn't have a word to say. So I think I think that's the only positive I can get out of Hannah's game, because we just don't know much about her, which is a real shame.
Yeah, there are some massive issues for me with Hannah moving forward in the next few episodes. So obviously we know that she was left out of the vote by the entire tribe. She lost her closest ally. We know that the only other connection Hannah has is Lee. So to me, that poses the question, is she just going to go back to the Lenenas and vote out the Calaton? In which case, Hannah's going to be the first person voted out once it's down to all Lenena people. On the other hand, is she going to flip and go with Calaton? And if so, say they vote out Ash, are they really then going to vote out Chris and Lee when they need to win challenges? Or are they just going to vote out Hannah? It's one of those things where it's like, unless Lenena win all of the challenges up until the merge, I think Hannah's not making the merge just based off of that. I don't think she has the connections to be able to do it.
Yeah. Can I just illustrate as well? So sorry to go back to the fact that we don't know her. But so Richard, he was the first boot of Survivor UK, and he had 5 confessionals. How many confessionals do you think Hannah's had through 6 episodes?
Oh, I don't know. I would guess at 2 or 3.
That's brutal. She's had 7. She's had 7 confessionals. You know, how can you only have 2 more confessionals than a guy that was voted out like 5 episodes ago? Yeah,
it's not great.
Yeah.
But it's annoying as well, because Hannah's someone who had seen the show before, so you'd think that like she would have some and clearly she was working with Ren as well, so maybe Ren just got all the screen time for their strategy. In which case, that doesn't bode well for Hannah either, because that clearly means she's not important.
Yeah. Not important is the right word. That is the description.
And we don't mean that in real life, Hannah. We just mean that in terms of the story that they're telling across this season.
I think probably least likely to come back for an all-star season is Hannah.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's Hannah. So next we'll move on to a person that's a huge stock riser for me. She's been a stock riser every single week. but due to her lack of physical strength, she has not moved above the bottom two, which is obviously the incredible Leilani. So, Joe, what are you thinking about Leilani?
Listen, it's a madness thing that she's back on top of the tribe.
Don't you just love the madness of it all?
Yeah, great couple of episodes. Huge stock rise for Leilani. It turns out all she needed was to be the other side of the beach, and that was enough to trigger her to become this absolute demigod of social situations. Yeah, really, really impressed by what Leilani did. I think obviously the lie is the big thing that means that she's not further or higher up this chart for us. I think the lie was the low point. Still don't actually think it was a lie. I think she told the truth the first time and just wanted to confess to something that didn't happen. But for me, yeah, Leilani is a huge stock riser. I think she's in a really strong position. I do think that we are going to get to that point again where her needs, not to please everybody, but to keep everyone on side, will eventually become untenable, and someone will cut her loose. She'll become more of a liability, I think, than someone who's trying to play the game a bit more strategically. But yeah, really happy that Leilani's still there. And actually, if she does make the merge, I think it's more advantageous for her than it is for someone who, like a Lawrence, for example, in terms of the challenges. There are going to be a lot more balanced challenges, a lot more endurance challenges, which may be more suited to Leilani and her particular skill type.
Yeah, I think Leilani could be a challenge beast when it comes to merge. Like you say, those sorts of challenges are suited for her body type and her physicality. I think, yeah, if she makes it to merge, she's also got a fairly low threat level, and she has. I guess no, I'll take that back. She hasn't really made moves yet, but I think I agree that she's definitely, her stock is definitely rising. I think part of it was quite lucky that the right people came over to Lenina in the tribe swap. I think if it wasn't for that, her stock would be dropping, because that lie didn't put her in a good place at all. Lee's obviously got her as a target, but I think those three are in a strong position within Lenina, and as long as they stick together and can convince probably Hannah, or if not, maybe someone else to work with them, then I do think she's in a strong position. I think if she does make it to merge, she could go quite deep into the game by being not a threat. And actually, she's got quite a good story at the end. She's someone that's been on the bottom since day one, every day, and she's survived. I think if she does get to merge, she's got a possibility of getting to the end.
Yeah, I completely agree with the story, and also with Snuka and Matthew being the right people. I'd push back slightly on the fact that she hasn't really made a move yet, because I think everything she did with Chris about pushing the fish story, I think she was actively putting the target on Red there and trying to keep herself from being the target. So I think she has started to play the game. But yeah, the challenge weakness is the thing up until the merge. Like, if any of the original Calatons are going to get voted out from this tribe, it's going to be Leilani. So that's why, for me, she can't be any higher up on this list until she doesn't go home. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to our next person. I'm not sure whether this was biased from the next time clip for me, but when I was looking at, the positive and negatives of this person's game over the past 2 episodes, for me, it's a pretty big stock drop, and that's Christopher. So, Adam, what are you thinking about Chris?
I totally agree. I think he's been given a good edit. So the fish story, he's actually only just grasped it. There was a confessional in one of the earlier episodes where he's talking about, they got a big fish, we got a small fish. But actually, I realized in this episode that is the same confessional that has just been shown. So they've given him a guy. I went back and watched it because I was like, that looks oddly familiar. And so he's talking about the big fish, little fish in episode 3 or 4. I can't remember which one it was off the top of my head. But that's actually one of the confessionals after this conversation he has with Leilani. So I had a sort of good view of Christopher earlier on, because I thought he was pretty sussed in, like pretty clued up with the social side of it, and had a good understanding of the game. But actually that clip sort of took that away a bit. I think he's obviously playing a very sneaky social game, and he's trying to get in with everyone. It's been spotted by Peg, and if Peg spotted it, then you're pretty sure other people have. And I don't see that gameplay keeping him in the game for long.
Yeah, so my main points were the loss of his trust with his alliance due to how he walked off with Leilani and then tried to say that Leilani was the one walking off with him. And I just think this move to get rid of Ren was worst of all people for him, just because he's thrown away the numbers to Calaton potentially if Hannah flips, and it's him and Ash and then Lee, and I just feel like they're not going to get rid of Lee. Lee has other allies. If they get rid of Ash, that's one of Christopher's closest allies, or they might just go for Christopher. And if the next time clip is anything to go by, wanting to actively throw the challenge in this scenario is just bizarre to me.
Yeah, the more and more times I watch that next time clip, it's so blatant. He's
literally grinning like there's no way no one sees it.
I don't even think that he is the strength for the tribe anymore. So I think with Matthew coming over, that kind of let's say if it was Shy who came round, I think maybe they'd be looking at Christopher as kind of the leader in challenges, someone to kind of be the physical strength part. But I don't even think he can really lean on that anymore. He did really well in kind of poleaxed or shoulder the load, as it's more commonly known. But in poleaxed, he might have done quite well. But the only thing I think about Christopher, and I hate to bring it up again, but I don't know if you guys have seen, and we'll put spoiler warnings inside of the show notes. So if you want to know when you can fast forward to, look at the show notes and skip it now. But I don't know if you guys have seen the descriptions of the episodes that the BBC are putting out right now. So you can see the description for episode 7, 8, episode 9, and episode 10. which is really, really interesting because they give quite a lot away. So the description in episode 10 says this. It says, at a nerve-wracking immunity challenge, the players must fight against their survival instincts to win safety. Isn't that last gasp? And isn't that exactly the one that Christopher was saying in his pre-season / post-season bio, that's the challenge that he really, really loved? And it's something that spoilt it a little bit for me, that his stock isn't going anywhere, but I kind of just know he's still going to be there, probably for the next, all the way up to episode 10 at least.
Okay, so that's Christopher. Let's talk about the other half of this duo that could potentially be in a bit of trouble here with Calaton gaining the numbers, and that is Ashley. Adam, what are your thoughts about Ashley?
She's been like a yo-yo to me. Like her position in the game is up and down, and my opinion of her is up and down. At the beginning, I thought she was a really strategic player, and bringing that alliance of 5 together in Lenena was a really good move. And then somehow she's on the bottom with Rach. Now I think she's sort of bringing her way back up. I think she's one of the people that's really talking about alliances again, and she's really managed to convince, obviously, Leilani, Tanuke, and Matthew to vote with her. And I think that's a big positive. And she's pulled out the first real blindside of the season and the first betrayal of alliance on alliance vote. So I think from a survivor point of view, I think I'm enjoying her game, but I don't know if that's necessarily strengthened her position in the tribe. I think that vote on Ren was premature, and I think she's played it well, but I think she's played it at the wrong time. And I think if the tribes were as they were, and it was just Leilani there, then I think that blindside would have been a good move. But I think now the tribe swapped, it's put them in a pretty perilous position.
I think she does very well when there's a common enemy, and then struggles when there's when there's ambiguity, or struggles when there's no real sort of clear consensus person who's on the bottom. For me, Ashley's best move is to flip alongside Hannah, because I think she's clearly on the outs with Lee, with Christopher. I don't think, although he said it before, they're best friends, they get on. I don't think she's particularly high in terms of that players that they want to keep around. The tough part is Hannah doesn't like her. So that's going to be harder to do than me saying she should flip as well. I don't see a huge amount of options for Ashley going forward. So although I was impressed with what happened in episode 5 and 6 and really loved to see her taking control and helping people correctly place the votes, I don't think she has a path to the end for me at this point. So ultimately a stock drop.
Yeah, so I left a neutral, but I didn't like this move. I thought it was premature, as you said, Adam. I thought there was some positives there in how she was able to fit in with the Calaton group. I know, Joe, you were talking about how she was making these genuine connections as opposed to Ren, who was saying, vote this way, basically. Ashley's a weird one because I think she has everything that it takes to win Survivor, but she's not quite assembling it together right now. That said, I am looking at her as a potential winner just in terms of the edit. If you look at your confessional charts, Joe, like Ashley is surprisingly right at the top all the time. We do hear her insight into things. So I'm thinking maybe not necessarily the winner, but I think Ashley's going to be quite a big player as we move further into the game. So I really don't think she's going to go pre-merge, but she's definitely at risk with her current position. So the next person I have as a stock riser, but a lot of it is speculative. And if I go purely based on the evidence on the screen, then it's probably a stock drop. But I'm gonna be optimistic here, and so I have Lee as the next person on our list. There's a lot of good things we've seen from Lee. You know, we see the pep talk, and although that's although watching that, you're kind of like, oh god, I'd hate that. Like everyone seems to be responding pretty well to it, and we do have a few people say Lee is a great leader, so I think he's done well there. We see he pulls in Ash, who he's written her name down at every single tribal council so far, and yet he manages to get her to work with him. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's Ashley realizing that's her only option, but I still think it's good that he's able to put that aside. It shows that he is thinking on a more of a strategic level than just let's get rid of the weakest people. He also, the vote for Leilani is the big thing for me. That's the where the speculation comes in. Like, did he do that to keep his relationship with Hannah fine, or did he just vote Leilani because she's the weakest woman on the tribe? I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. But Adam, what are you thinking about Lee?
I think you're very generous, Matt. I did love his little Braveheart speech at the beginning. Like that got me going. I think if I was on his tribe, I'd have been down for that. The rest of it, I disagree with. I think the vote for Leilani is because he's not. I think he sees the game in a right. We'll talk about votes, but I'm voting for the weakest player, and that's how I'm voting because that's how he's gone every time. And I think maybe there's been split votes before, but I think in his mind he's voting for the weakest player, and I don't see him playing a tactical voting game, and I think that's his big downside. I think he's endeared himself to me more as the episodes have gone through, but I don't see him being a tactical player in any way, and I think all his voting is down to this sort of strength mindset and who's the weakest person on the tribe. I don't see any other voting strategy from him, to be honest.
My daughter asked me today, who's better at throwing hammers, Lee or Miss Trunchbull?
Fresh meat.
That's like... that's his...
You praised her well, Joe.
That's the character mould that Lee is falling into.
Your mommy is a twit.
They're not asking, is Lee going to win? Is Lee going to find an idol? They're saying, could Lee throw a hammer?
He can throw a hammer though.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in that.
Dude, I've seen online that he's saying he went 4 for 4. Like, I don't know if I believe that he went 4 for 4 with his first 4 shots. If that's true, I want to see like the raw footage. Like, no sound effects, nothing. That would be brilliant. So I think overall Lee is still doing really well to be in the game. For me, his stock is going up week by week. I don't necessarily think it's a winner's edit, but I think he's going to have a really big part of the next episode with Chris, because if Chris is throwing the challenge as badly as we think he is, based on the next time clip, the one person who's going to absolutely hate that is Lee.
Yeah.
And that is the easy story to tell, Lee, isn't it? Did you see Christopher throw the challenge? And I think he's going to go livid, and it might be the first time that he votes for a man. I think, and that's factual. That's not me throwing shade, but yeah, this could be his first vote on a man. And his game is built around bringing people in who look like him, who feel like him, who he can really connect with on a raw level. And so you see that with Matthew, don't you? We didn't see a conversation between Lee and Tanuke, but we saw the conversation with him bringing Matthew in and saying, look, us boys need to stick together. And if he can get one more person out in Lenena and sort of keep riding this kind of male-dominated game, we're in a really interesting situation. We haven't really commented on it, Matt, but right now it is the women who are being voted out. We have a very strong chance that post-merge is going to be a really male-dominated game. And that would help him a lot.
Yeah, it would. And I think that's his best chance, really, to keep all the shields around him. It'd be very weird to be an all-male alliance. Like, we always go on about like, all-female alliances and how they always like are promised but never come into fruition. But yeah, the all-male alliance would certainly be a new one and not particularly well received, I don't think.
Just what we needed to finish 2023.
Yeah. So next we move on to someone who we finally got a bit of a better understanding about what they're doing on the island, and that is Matthew. So we find out that he has been in this power trio, it turns out, with Tanuka and Nathan that we thought was just a duo. He puts out Rachel's name and then makes it look like it wasn't him, so that bodes well for his jury chances, the way he hugs Rachel there. But yeah, what were we thinking about Matthew?
Yeah, it's hard to gauge where because like you say, he hasn't had a great edit. He hasn't had a lot of content so far. I mean, his challenge performances in both well, all of them recently has been commendable. He took a lot of weight early on in the shoulder the load challenge, and yeah, he's really proving himself to actually be a real challenge asset and quite sort of have quite a lot of grit within the challenges. I think there's one point where he's in one of the tribals and he says that his head's scrambled and he doesn't know what's going on. Like, I kind of believe him. I don't think that's a play to try and act dumb. I think his head genuinely was scrambled and he wasn't particularly sure what's going on. So I don't know how much of an influence within that power trio he has or how much of a strategic mind he's got on him, but he's in a good position without doubt. I think it seems like Tanuka is dragging him along nicely behind her, which is great for him. Again, I think he needs to work his way through to the merge and then start making moves to really get a resume behind him. And if he really wants to get to the end of the game, because at the moment it feels like he's in a good position. Socially, he's obviously liked, but he's not really made any moves or played the game particularly hard yet from what I've seen. So I think, yeah, absolutely. I agree that he's a stock riser. I think it's really good that we're seeing more of him, but it'd be good to see him sort of make some decisions by himself and try and prove himself from a strategic point of view as well.
And timing, I think, is going to be really critical in that. If he can time the move right, then he sets himself up really, really well. If he goes too soon, I think he's a fairly easy boots. But I did like the move ultimately for him to swap over to Lenena. I think that was the right way to go for him. He's definitely cemented his ticket. He's punched his ticket into the merge just by being the strength that they need on the Lenena tribe. I do rate Matthew's game, rate him in challenges. I think he's been a lot better socially. And like that you called out, Matt, that he was one of two people to give Rachel a hug as she left. She only hugs Jess and Matthew. And so clear that he is endearing himself to people, even though he threw a name out there and kind of pushed it along the whole way. So, yeah, stock rise for me.
Definitely. So let's move on to our final person who I don't think has dropped below the top spot on any tribe she's been on so far, and that is Tanuka. So, Adam, what are you thinking about Tanuka?
Yeah, I think she's absolutely in the right position. She's, first of all, making the move over to Lenena. She's explained why she decided to do it, and it shows that her gameplay is just a level above everyone else's. She's thinking next steps in the game. She's not thinking next vote. She's thinking end game, and I think that's really important. And you just don't see that from any other player on either of the beaches. I think she's looking at Jess as a potential goat to take to the end. She's obviously got Leilani lined up as in the same position, and she's moving over to Lenena to try and make more connections with more people because she backs her social game, and it's very hard to find a hole in the way she's playing. Socially, everyone obviously likes her. She put in an absolute shift in shoulder the load. I don't see her being voted out by anyone unless they all start to realize how good she is socially, and it will take a lot for someone to call that out, I think, and to get people on board because she is liked by everyone. If I had to play devil's advocate, the only negative I'd say with Tanuka is, has she really made a move yet? I think every move that she's been a part of has been presented to her, and a lot of the votes were not necessarily where she was going to put her vote in the first place. Richard's a good example. Rachel's a good example. I think with the Richard vote, obviously she said she didn't want to vote for him. With the Rachel vote, she was talking about voting shy up until Lawrence spoke to her. So I think, I don't think that's necessarily a hole in her game, but if I had to pick a flaw that I saw, that would be it. But overall, I mean, her social game is far and above anyone else that's playing this game at the moment. And strategically, she's clearly looking at the end game, which nobody else is. And I think her social game will take her deep into the game.
I think that's a pretty easy sell for her as well at the end. She reminds me a lot, Adam, of kind of Mo in Australian Survivor All-Stars, where it was clear that her pitch was going to be, I just had to sit here and people would bring me information and plans, and then I'd pick and choose which one I wanted to go for. And it feels like Tanuke could say that same line really, really easily. You know, people just bring me information and I just decide which do I want to listen to and what do I want to take. And it is really jarring, I think, that she's only been there 2 days and we're putting her at the top of the tribe. It's a massive credit to her game that she is just playing so hard. I would have loved to have seen her with an idol. I think the one drawback of being at Lenena is she doesn't have that opportunity now to find the Calaton idol. But again, I think she's in a really strong position, really rates her, massively deserves to be at the top of the tribe. So stock rise for me.
Yeah, maybe it's just our complete bias, but like if Lenena lose twice and we don't see the Hannah flip or whatever, if Lenena stays strong, then like obviously Leilani would go first, but I just can't see them voting out Tanuka and Matthew, especially like Lee. I think he would sooner turn on the rest of the old Lenena. So yeah, I just think she's in the best position. She's playing the best game out of everyone at the moment, and I can't see any way in which she doesn't make the merge. She's one of the main characters. I don't see how she wouldn't make the merge at this point.
Agreed.
Fantastic, rock and roll. So there we have it. That's our cast capital. Who's the stock risers? Who are the people whose stock have dropped? It's been absolutely brilliant to kind of talk it through, but let's do a little bit of predictions. We didn't do this in our weekly recap. We should have done. Adam, I'm going to come to you first and push you for a quick decision. Who are the next 2 people you think will be voted out of Survivor UK?
So it's going to have to be from Lenena for me. I think the odds are that they're losing the next couple of immunities. I would say Lee's a rogue one for me, so I don't know how this is going to play out. I think the likelihood is Lenena 4 are going to come back together and target Leilani. I can't see her surviving another vote if they lose another immunity challenge, because Lee's going to go back to pushing the tribe strong mentality. I think other than Tanuke, I don't think any of them really have a vision of how close merge is, because it is just around the corner. There's probably only a couple more immunity challenges before the merge. Tanuke might be aware of that, but I don't think the others really are. So I would say Leilani first and then probably Ashley next.
Nice. Love that. How about you, Matt? Who you got going next?
I'd probably go. I agree with Leilani. I think it would suck, but I don't see if Hannah doesn't flip. I don't think there's any way that Leilani gets out of that situation, and probably Hannah as well. I don't think they're going to be that worried about keeping Hannah after they've got the numbers back in their favour. You know, change it to a 3-2 and keep their position pretty strong. But, you know, are we due another non-elim? Who knows?
Oh, dude.
Imagine Leilani gets sent back to the other tribe again.
Man, that would drive me bonkers if there's another non-elim. Yeah, I kind of see it the same way. I think we'll have a 1 win by Calaton, 1 win by Lenena. Give me Ashley to go next for Lenena. And I reckon Shy. Writing's on the wall, and I think it's coming up to that time to pay the piper. So those are the 2 people I think will be going next. Adam, it's been brilliant though to have you on to kind of talk through this with you all around Survivor UK. Obviously, you've got a great strategic mind. You've got some fire takes. You know, where can the people follow you, engage with you, really be able to kind of see some of the great stuff you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm not huge on socials, but I'm at Rappy100 on Instagram. So yeah, feel free to follow me and look at some of my some nature photography and yeah, have a chat about anything Survivor. I'm always open to chatting Survivor.
Fantastic, love that. And Matt, where can the people follow us?
So they can follow us at the Sit Out Bench, all lowercase with full stops in the middle, on Instagram, and at the Sit Out Bench on X.
The best way to help the podcast grow is to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. and take a moment to send the podcast to someone you love. Let's build the Survivor community and make sure there's a season 2. From me, Matt, and Adam, that's everything. See you next time.
Good night.
Thanks, guys.